Hello, everyone. How is sound? Hello. Hi, Mitch.
Hey there. Good morning.
How are you?
It's been a busy week or
That is true. Can you give me some feedback on sound? Is it sounding okay, or do you hear an
Yeah.
echo?
sound perfect.
Oh, thank you. Okay. I was hearing some echo on this side.
I mean, there's a little bit of distortion in the background, but for the most part, you're clear and loud, so that's fine with me.
Thank you. Okay. Hello, Kurt. Welcome. It's been a while. Know if you can hear us. You can unmute yourself if you want.
Good morning.
All right. Good morning, Kurt. How are you?
I'm doing well, and you?
Also, all going well. I was saying it's been a while, but I'm very glad you joined us today.
Thank you.
How's everything going with the team?
Going well. Things are good.
Getting back from COVID times, I hope.
We are. We're pretty much all of us are back in the office, so normal.
Oh, that's good. That's good news. Okay, well, we're going to kickstart. We have several people who signed up for, but this is really a user session. So the main goal is to use our time to share a few ideas and answer any questions anyone in the session has. And that's why we have the option for each one on the call to unmute and ask the questions if they want live, or also use the Q&A. So feel free to interrupt anytime, unmute, and ask any questions you have about your current systems that I will try to help the best I can. Okay, we are recording this session. So this is our 25th Zoho user session. So just over 2 years now that we started. Today I thought to go through, as usual, all user questions, anything you want to look at, and share some ideas on how to streamline your sales funnel. So really mainly focused on the deals or potentials module. So kind of best practice on how to use it. So a bit of a deep dive into that module. So I'm going to share my screen with the demo account and a quick presentation. With me today is also Nicole. Nicole works with us at Gravity, and she also supports her clients using the CRM. So she also has a lot of experience using Zoho. And I am just checking. There was a change in the view. All right, start screen sharing. So let me know if you see a PowerPoint slide.
I can see it, Anna.
Oh, cool. Great. Thank you. All right. So welcome, everyone. So today's session, straight into streamlining sales funnel, how to work. Mainly, we're going to jump in how to define your sales process, help you focus your team using the CRM potentials module, and use the views for daily, weekly, monthly sales meetings. And even it's really to give focus to people and to make sure that when you're talking to your team, you're always talking about the same cases, the same situation. So kind of everyone has a shared view. So as I said before, feel free to interrupt and launch a question anytime. If you have any questions as well prior to the session, just go ahead and share them whenever you feel comfortable to. Okay. Do we have any questions before I start? No? Okay. We'll jump in. All right. So I thought of there's a lot we could be talking about on this topic. So I try to come up with kind of the 3 things we usually work on with our clients and that I suggest as best practices when you're trying to define your sales process. So I'm going to go through a real example. The main thing is really to start with the end in mind. What do I mean with this is start with what is the goal of doing of using the CRM in the first place, or of defining your sales process, of clarifying why you need to make some changes or why you even need to implement a CRM in case you didn't have one. So quick examples and how they connect with what you need to check on the CRM side. It's really about knowing when you start this sort of project, do you want to have like a clear sales stages that trigger communication, for example? You want to make sure that you would have, 4 or 5 different email templates that you could trigger to your prospects or to RFQ requests you have on your system. And you want to make sure that, okay, someone in that phase, in that stage, should get this sort of communication. When you want that, it's really important that you have clear sales stages. And I'm going to give an example of how those stages should be even named and framed. Another example is usually very common in this sort of projects is to increase sales accountability. I want to make sure every time who has what and who's working on what, so there's no excuse for being hanging out there. So one key element obviously is the deal or the potential ownership. And then you can play also with focus on each stage and how each stage belongs to different people. If you're working with operations, for example, accounting, depending on the structure of your firm. Another real very frequent reason to do this is to have a real-time and easy reporting. So that's also key to work and customize this module. Or some other cases, for example, one of our clients recently had a need for segmentation for marketing purposes. That was the main reason why they needed the CRM to function between their sales and marketing team. And having that in mind, the way we segment the CRM for them was quite different from what we do with other clients, because that was just such the main drive. So depending on what you really want to get out of a CRM, kind of have this idea of start with them in mind. Think, okay, if this is what I want, what do I need to do back? And let's talk through what those options are. The other key thing I find working with sales teams is really answer the what's in it for me. If it's not clear for everyone in your team what's in for them for using the CRM, if it's just duplicating their work, or if there's not a real attachment to whether it's a dashboard that you present to a board meeting, whether it's a report that it's weekly shared via email with everyone, whether it's commission payment. Different companies that I've worked with and that we work currently with have different ways to promote the use of the CRM, but it's really important that there has to be something there that the salesperson will gain. Will gain true efficiencies by emailing several people at the same time with a pre-template that I've built up. But usually it has to be more than that, from my experience. The management and the sales management really needs to be using it to showcase results and where we're at for the team to see that it's really important to keep it updated. The other idea is run through the process in a detailed fashion. So when you're starting to define your sales process, if you haven't done this already, make sure that the discussions you have involve the right people, but also go to a deeper level of detail, because you want to make sure you didn't miss any key element of the process. Otherwise, you might be missing something key, whether for reporting or accountability. So in the overall, you really want the CRM to do all this 4 elements: attract strangers. You kind of need a website and other strategies for that, but gather that information, convert people who visit you or who submit an RFQ, for example, through your website or web form, close opportunities and delight customers. Today, we're really focusing on the close opportunities. So let's look at the real case. This example is from a B2B manufacturing company that has an internal sales team was currently, or before using the CRM, was relying on email and Excel for proposal follow-up and reporting. So very common still. so kind of what we did here was kind of what was the end in mind for this team was to define clear sales stages that improves accountability and follow up. So the main goal of the management team was to know who was managing each element of those proposals and if those proposals were being followed up, in time. The other key element was real-time and easy sales reporting. So for this, we had to see, okay, what exactly is the sales team reporting today? What do they want to see in their Excel files, and how could the CRM mimic that? So then it can truly substitute the other reporting. So there's no duplication of tasks for a key element of the sales team. So what we did we ran through the process in a detailed fashion with the key elements. So the higher level management team and the sales management team, and also the marketing team was also involved because there was there was some aspect of the process that was done with the marketing team as well. So what we did was we listed all sales activities, this is already a summary, what you see here on the right. We selected the ones that can be clearly seen or a clear cut between stages. And then the other key element is to agree on your organization's nomenclature for actions or processes. And this could be a very tricky moment in this sort of project or when you work in the CRM, because some people just call, a prospect, a lead. That's a very common one, a potential. It's really important, whatever you decide to go with or work on, that everyone knows what a lead means. Everyone knows what a prospect means. Everyone knows what a stage means. So what I thought of sharing with you here is an example where, because there was, the key element was to have accountability and follow up. The sales team always needed to know what was really done. So instead of using kind of broader descriptions, like negotiation or booking, scheduling, which some people sometimes use in the CRM, with this team, we went really straightforward to something that was already accomplished. So like an action that there would be no doubt if it was done or not. And you see, it's almost like the past tense on purpose used. But this is really, the PO was received. There's no doubt if it was or it wasn't, right? You would know if you got an email with a PO. The same for a quote sent. The quote was sent. So as soon as the salesperson sends that quote, it changes to this stage in the potentials module. The same with if a salesperson got a phone call or followed up with a client and they got a one verbal. I didn't get the PO yet, but this is sufficient enough just to celebrate internally and to have a conversation with the manager about, we're on a good tracks. They told me they're going to approve and they're going to move with us. So this is one way to celebrate something that's positive, but also there's no doubt when you're describing these actions that happened. So there's no gray zone. So that's what I mean with a clear cut between the stages. The same for the other one. So sales demo happened, the meeting was booked. So what you can do when you have stages like this is very easy to now jump into the CRM. And I'm going to share my demo example of what you could do with people on different stages. So let's look into an account here, for example. So these are all demo examples. And please feel free to interrupt anytime and or just post a question on the Q&A. What we're doing here is, first of all, if this was the plan to use these stages, what we're looking at is on the module section, customization, modules and fields. We're going to look at, in this case, I call it deal. This is one of the steps that I always advise. If you call it something else, potential opportunities, projects, this is really what's going to drive money. That's the main thing. It's what you call it. It's going to be, closed and mean revenue. Adjust the name, so just rename. Zoho only asks you to use a singular and a plural name, so you just have to fill out these two fields. So if instead of deals, you call it potentials, and here you'd call it potential. So then the system automatically changes everywhere in reporting, in the module. So let's go into the module and look at these stages. And just kind of quick tips on how they connect with the process, but also with your reporting. So the stage, if you click on the three dots, you have the stage probability mapping. And this is your sales process. So this is where making all the definition of what do we do step by step. What are the key areas? What's a clear cut? That's when you come here and you definitely define. Okay, this was a qualified prospect. So if it hasn't been qualified, it doesn't belong in this module. If this is your first stage, if you're not sure, if you don't have a contact in there or something around those lines, you shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be on the potentials module. What's important here? So define all the stages. It's easy to drag and drop if you kind of setting them up for the first time. I always advise as well to use probability, because this is used for real sales forecasting. So depending on the total amount of your potential deal, it will multiply that amount by the probability. So if you're looking for a forecast report, it automatically calculates that. So it gives you a sense for, well, everything moving forward with what you currently have on your pipeline, this is what you could expect in terms of revenue. And this is how I would use it, because it's not 100% or 90% in all of them. It really makes a difference as you move, as you know, from a sales perspective. Then don't be afraid to add more stages, if that makes sense. Usually less is more. So what's really important is that every step, every key step of your sales that your sales team works through is clearly defined here. And then what you can see here is this an open potential, and does it belong in the forecast category or not? So everything that it's running, it's open. And then you kind of have another stage, which is closed one. And this could be, for some businesses, is when the PO came in. This is really, you should try and mimic what is a celebration, a true celebration in your business. And when you know that revenue is going to come in, some other businesses will use invoicing as the closed ones, like the invoice has been sent out. Some others is when the invoice or payment is received. So that your 100% is total closed amount. That's a closed one. And then what you do is usually you select the closed option, because that means you've closed that deal. For everything that's lost, some companies decide to have it on their pipeline view, but usually from a sales perspective, you mark these as closed lost and you omit them from your pipeline, really, because you don't want to be seeing everything you've lost as a pipeline grows, because it's not in your pipeline anymore. So that would be my advice for best practice on how to set it up. Any questions here? Okay, so let's look at how we can use these stages to trigger communication. So I'm just going to look at all the potentials that I've set up here. So this is just raw data. The main thing is playing with these stages to know what has been sent. So if you have like a weekly meeting or even a daily meeting with the sales team, what do you want to be focusing on? So what I would use here is build views, build a custom view on what do you want to focus on. So do you want to focus, for example, on everything that has a quote sent? Everything that has a quote sent, but we didn't get a reply back. The stage, and this is kind of how you set up. Let me go back, see if I didn't do it too fast. When you're on a module, and this applies to every module in the CRM, you come to this section here, and you select a new custom view, and you call it what defines the view. And then you could select several variables to create a really custom view. So in this case, I'm going to say if a quote has been sent and I didn't hear back, it would be something on the quote sent status. It's not the previous ones because the quote hasn't been sent. It's not a one. It's really just a quote sent. And what I like about views is that you can share them with other team members, so that makes it really useful. So everyone is on the same page because everyone is literally seeing the same data. And then also what I like is it's very easy to have all your data, all your columns already customized. So if I want to see, I always want to see the account potential, see who they have as their contact in that account. So let's even put it like that. What's the amount? The stage, I know, so I could kind of put that to the bottom. When is it closing? Is there anything else that's key here for you? If there's any other field, that's when you should bring it on. If it's type, you want to know if it's a new custom or recurring, for example. So let's see how this looks. So here they are on the order. I selected them. So now it's very easy to do one of two things. Okay, if the quote is sent and we didn't get feedback because we didn't get the stage has not been sent, I would spot some things here that I would highlight to my sales team. For example, I wouldn't want a potential without a contact person, right? Because it's like, okay, if this is real, who did you send the quote to? So that should be the person here on the contact name, not the accounting team, but really who your contact point is. So these would be key elements. I would suggest as well, for example, making the contact name as a mandatory field in your potentials module. So you make sure that when you add one, there's the sales team won't be able to close it if they don't add a contact name. The other element is like, do you really want to track what's existing, what's new? If this is key for reporting, then make sure that you ask the team this. I wouldn't make everything mandatory because then it just becomes a bit of a pain for the sales team to go through everything. But you can definitely focus on that on a sales call. What else could you be using here? So now, quick examples. We could use these ones to move them, to tag them, to create a task, for example. If I want to tell my team that, this is something you should be following on. So there's a lot of things you can do from here. You could send an email straight away as well. So if I'm the salesperson, obviously it's only going to send an email to the person that has a contact. But if I have a template set up, it will only bring templates that I have for the potentials module. So here I just have the big alert, which is a, hey, congratulations team. You could create your email template and go from there. I'm going to go back because email templates is a whole new, I think we talked about it in one of our last Zoho user sessions. Okay, what else do we have here? So kind of best practices that I wanted to share, a quick checklist. Key is really to implement small changes quickly. So that's my tip for you. If you want to adjust something, go ahead, adjust it, do it with the team so they see what is being changed or updated. But make sure that you have your, the module name is clear for everyone, what that means. So it's potentials, deals, opportunities, projects. Review the stages. Make sure that you check that section of the stage probability mapping and that I showed you with the probabilities. And if it's closed one, do you want to have that on your pipeline or not? Rename the stages to match your process. Adjust probability. Delete all fields that are not key in the module. So this is really important because when Zoho comes up by default, you just have a lot of fields you don't need. If there's, even if, and we have some clients on the call on the webinar today, if you want to just, you realize that after several months, one thing I do, for example, is to check something like this. Okay, let's say we have, let's look at, what else do we have here? Lead source, for example, next step. Is anyone taking notes on the next step? And I'm going to unselect this, and let's just look at all the potentials. Probably the contact stage. Okay, where's my next step? Potential owner. I thought I added the next step. And type. Okay. So let's look at this and let's see, okay, type. Yeah, some people are taking note of this. Okay, so I can follow up. Let's say next step, no one is really using it. Because the stage in itself, it's clear enough what you have here and what's the next step is. So if no one is using, is this something that makes sense? Like, question the team. Is anyone really going to use it? Or if you see like 2 or 3 records only, so you should really get rid of fields that have no purpose. Think if before deleting, if you need them for reporting or if there's past data that you still need to keep, that would be a reason not to delete. The other key on your checklist element is define the key mandatory fields. So kind of what I was telling you about is if you want to make sure, for example, that every potential has a contact person and it should have a contact person from day one, then the contact, for example, here, let's bring this up. The contact name should really be mandatory, right? For some companies, for example, the account name is not mandatory because they deal with end customers or both. So there's always has to be a person, but maybe there's no organization. Another example would be you have a limit for how many mandatories you have, and I always advise, don't try to go crazy on those because it will just derail sometimes a salesperson to start using it. Closing date is key to any reports you want done on date, which is what's closing this quarter or what closed last year. How are we doing versus last semester? So that's where you really need the date, and that's why that's a key mandatory one, and the stage for obvious reasons. Things that you probably can delete is, for example, modified by. I'll just remove because I don't really need to have that in the screen. There's other ways to see these. Or who created. I'll remove these as well most of the times. Reason being, it just takes a lot of screen area. So now I can just kind of go to my, this is a client, and I don't need to see the campaign here, for example. Okay, let's just save it. Let's go back to our data. So it's making sure that this screen is as small as needed, or if you need, for example, if you need more information, then you might want to have another section, kind of break down so it's not too much for someone to see in one go. That would be my recommendation. The other element you want to make sure is you don't want to have duplicate data. So in other modules, for example, like in the contact module, it's essential to make emails as non-duplicates. In the potentials models, honestly, there's not much. What I would use as unique is, for example, if we're recording PO numbers. So for the same PO, there should only be one potential, usually, unless there's a good reason why you're breaking that PO down in different potentials in your organization. But you want to make sure you're using something as specific, or quote number, for example. If you bring in something like quote number, I would suggest you to bring a number. So let's look at this field, for example. Let's quote it PO number. Okay. Here, probably the PO, I'm just adjusting the settings because I'm assuming 9 digits. Okay, so this one doesn't have, if you select this number, you won't have decimals, which is what you want. And then mark as required or not. You don't want to mark as required. You want to not allow duplicates. Okay. So this will prevent, really, you won't be able to save another potential with the same PO. This is useful, for example, if you have a lot of people, for example, working from an inbox and they're kind of picking up through stuff, or you even have like sales assistant or someone who is supporting and adding information in the CRM. You want to make sure that that PO is not going to be in two potentials, or two salespeople are dealing with the same case. So that would be the reason, for example, to have that. Okay. Okay. Well, kind of approaching the end. Do we have any questions? I know we don't have anything on the Q&A. If you have, please feel free to ask. No? Okay. Well, this session, as I was explaining, has been recorded, and we'll be sharing this